Welcome to AI TV. We're broadcasting here from the AI Expo Africa, Africa's largest trade show for AI buyers and suppliers. So I'm introducing here Dr. Jacques Ludik from the Cortex group. Jacques just come from doing a great keynote about operationalizing AI in the enterprise. And Jacques, it was a great talk. I think last year we'd characterized AI in Africa as exciting and new, and people kind of talking about it and the vibe and the hype. And now this year it's really about reality. And there's a lot of CXOs, CIOs, CEOs now thinking, well, how do I get this into my business? And you were talking very eloquently to that point. I mean, what top three things do you think we should all be considering in the enterprise now to look at these technologies?
Yeah, Nick, it's fantastic to be here at the Expo, by the way. And it was fantastic to hear also Simon's talk, where he was setting the scene in terms of China and Asia, what's happening. I wanted to keep it super real in terms of business for us and what we can do there. So for me, there's customer-facing businesses, and there's very specific things that we can do there to be impactful. It's about a bottom line. You want to address the business value drivers. So from a customer-facing perspective, I think it's the on-demand, real-time communications, having a good sense of what the customer wants, needs, and what to offer to the customer at the right time, what type of thing do you want to offer, etc. We see this in retail, financial services, insurance, banking, etc. So to have that sorted out is a huge AI application. In the industrial space, I would say it's more smart process optimization and predictive maintenance, massive use cases. As a matter of fact, I just had some guys coming after the talk, just talking about their specific use cases, and referencing some of the things that I've mentioned. Even the Sense solution, when we talked about what you can do with video feeds and audio and so forth, in terms of for safety, security, and also to do process optimization as well. So it's a massive opportunity around that as well, because if you think about, you've got obviously the traditional sensors, like you've got your temperatures and flows and pressures and all of that's been in plants for a long time, but now you can add the videos, the infrared, the audio, all sorts of different things that can listen, etc. So you bring all of that into play, and you can add tremendous value. You can add further value. So it's almost like having a human automated from that perspective.
And I mean, I think you mentioned the word customer there about 15 times. I mean, I think AI seems to now be creating the dawn of personalization.
Yes.
And I think, the customer from the outside the business is going to start to see a much more responsive enterprise essentially over time now. I guess that's where we're heading.
Yep.
I mean, what other examples are you physically working on now? I mean, you just said you're having some conversations.
Yes. Okay, so there's multiple things. So obviously for a business, you also help them to be more efficient. So we talked specifically about machine learning that's reading emails, understanding the intent, and not only that, but also doing the OCR on attachments and character recognition, all sorts of different things, but then take that information and put that into buckets and help to automate that flow. So those are things in terms of just the automation side of it. But I think the other exciting piece for me is it's around intelligent virtual assistants. We're just like a sensor. With this phone, it's like a sensor on people as well. You can determine the sentiment. You can have real-time information about the customer that you want to feed back to your predictive models to predict what's needed there based on our current understanding of the customer. And the latest information, you can actually provide better service and better offerings as well. And it's a fast-paced, fast-moving world, so I think it's very important to make use of that information. So intelligent virtual assistants is very important, but it feeds into this kind of personalization at scale. And obviously at this conference, we're going to have more sessions on personalization. We've got a workshop on personalization, and excited to talk more about that, because I think it's probably the theme for customer-facing businesses.
And now, again, another big topic that I think everyone's interested in. I mean, you were talking about sensors and phones and data.
Yep.
Privacy. That's got to be like
huge.
The number one headache, I think, now for an organization that has many sets of data, legacy data, paper data.
Yes.
Things like GDPR now making it harder for people to share information.
Yep.
And then when you collect information, you have to be very careful about what you do with that information.
Yep.
I mean, should the enterprise be doing with regards privacy and ethics and policy around data?
I think in the past, because it was kind of new to implement these technologies, it was almost kind of overlooked. People didn't really have a look at that. And I think data's been shared, it's almost like the Wild West. But I think there's a sense from a customer perspective and we've got a responsibility. We know data's the new oil is gold. And it's so valuable, and you want to treat it carefully as well. So, and in terms of, and also I think it's from a risk perspective, there's all the upside the value that you unlock from that, but it also presents huge risk. If you handle it in the wrong way, it could be detrimental to your business. We've seen this with Facebook and all of that. So I think it's a massive responsibility to be transparent about how you handle those type of things. And if you think about credit risk and those kind of solutions, be clear about how do you address bias, for instance. So I think Singapore, the Monetary Authority of Singapore has got this acronym called FEAT. This kind of describes their 12 principles as well. And it's about fairness, ethics, accountability, all of those kind of things, transparency, all of those things are critical. And there's various things that you can do as a business to actually implement those kind of things. You can have internal, external boards evaluating things. You can have your own policies around those kind of things and make sure when you implement solutions, you've got a checklist, you adhere to this as well. So all of that would make customers more comfortable as well. But I think it's also very important for the customers to also look at this seriously as well, because they obviously solutions are implemented there, so they need to take ownership of those type of things. Yeah.
And I think, I guess maybe a point to sort of finish on. I mean, one of the things that I think when we look at companies in the East, and I think it's great that we had Simon here from Singapore, is the fact that they have a different way of looking at a vision and the time on that vision. So if you look at a company like SoftBank, for example, in Japan,
yes,
they if you go on their website, they've got a document that basically says this is our 30-year vision that's going to set the scene for the next 300 years.
Exactly
I mean,
right.
like 300 years. That's like a crazy amount of time, right? Now, should we be thinking? Should CXOs, the enterprise, be thinking maybe not necessarily 30, but certainly 10 to 20 years on from now, what their business might look like? I mean,
exactly right. As a matter of fact, I think we are also testimony in Cortex, where we're looking at what the world in 5 years is going to be vastly different than now, in 10 years as well. So you need to think about systems level evolution as well. So the way I'm looking at it, there's tactics. I think you've seen this. So tactics, and there's strategy, there's the vision, and then the systems level evolution. And what does it mean for your business? All businesses need to look at the world like that, because their world will change. We're sitting in an exponential curve, so you have to look at that. I think what I would love to see from an African perspective, that we've got that kind of vision that China has got. And I think it would make it difficult. We are very fragmented. And we know that West Africa is completely different to East Africa, is completely different to Southern Africa. And how do you bring it all together? So you need to create those pockets of excellence, but we need to collaborate as well. We need to have this collective vision as well. So we know there's free trade agreements and all sorts of things, which is great. But we need kind of really visionary leaders getting together with all the stakeholders, business and government and so forth, and help paint that vision. And we saw this morning with Simon as well. The vision is so clear, they color it in. They've got these videos showing it. Yeah. So but that's kind of the world that I see. But even with South Africa, we've got so many problems, so many things to solve here. So you need to solve it here in the small, but you've got to work on a national level, but also on an African continental level as well. Yeah.
Well, look, Jacques, it's great to have you here as always. I mean, it was a great keynote, and if you could sum up the show and the community we're building in a couple of words. I mean, where do you see us all heading? I mean, as a group, as a community.
I can't emphasize the importance of the likes of AI Expo Africa and helping to create this business community around AI, because in the end, we want to help businesses thrive. Very important to share what we are doing. It's very important that we also almost create this community around this as well, because if somebody wins there, that's good. We also want to win, and we want to see these kind of success stories. We want to create the unicorns on the African continent, so we want to inspire one another as well. So it's a great place to do that.
Great. Thanks very much for coming, John. We look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.